to take it. Got it! Boston wins!
Two legends in basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience. This is the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast.
NBA, some college, a little bit of everything. You know, what can I say? But it wasn't going to happen here with him.
Well, it's that time again. It's time for the Bob Ryan, Gary Tanguay Zoom Pod here on CLNS. So we are brought to you by PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with PrizePicks. Bob, first we have to explain the hat. The L is not for luscious. The L is not for love. The L is not for loser. What is the L for?
The L is for the Lawrenceville School, my alma mater, where we had our reunion weekend this past weekend. And in my class, in case it was our 60th, we're the class of 64. And it was we had Chamber of Commerce weather for once, and it was a really nice time. I got reunited with one of our classmates who was the captain of our basketball team, who hadn't come back in 60 years. He decided it's about time he made a return to Lawrenceville. And that was great to see him, Jim Mitchell, who's now known as Jim Alexander, and that's another story. But anyway, he was the captain. He was our only dunker. We were a bunch of Caucasian guys from the 60s, you know. So we had one dunker. That was Jim Mitchell. That was it. And but it was a great weekend. And I'm honoring, as you all know, our national champion lacrosse team. That literally they are the national champions, and that's a sport that was inaugurated by some of my classmates back in circa 1962. And they were members of the very first lacrosse team at Lawrenceville. So they're really proud of what these young men have been able to do.
Well, as a parent of a player who played Lawrenceville this year, I can tell you they are loaded, and they are without question the best lacrosse team in the country. I mean, for lines 1 through 4, forget about it. They are a terrific team. So, Bob,
yes.
Let's and Lawrenceville's a beautiful campus, by the way. I mean, it was gorgeous. So let's get to it here. The NBA Finals coming up. Has your opinion, based on the way things have gone in the West, changed at all as far as the Celtics, how many games they need to win, how difficult will it be, should it be a cakewalk, etc.?
I am calling the Celtics in 6. I call it a gentleman's 6. By that I mean they will enable Dallas to depart with their dignity intact. They will feel they put up a good fight. They will go away knowing they lost to a better team. That's what I expect to happen. The playoffs have answered, or at least begun to answer the one big question we had, which was how will they fare with the scores tied with 2 minutes to go, as opposed to when they're up by 25 with 11 minutes to go. And we know they're very good at that, although, you know, they had a couple of blown leads here and there. But let's face it, this is a team that won 3 games by 50 points. No one's ever done that in the history of the league. Okay, so they entered the playoffs, and they lost Porzingis immediately, and it didn't seem to matter at all. And it hasn't mattered in the first 3 series. It'll be great to have them back in this one because this team, Dallas, everybody talks about Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving as they should. They're the stars. They're the guys who are going to carry them as far as they're going to go. But they've got 2 active young big men, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. And they put up astonishing statistics by the fact that what they do is they roll to the basket from pick and rolls, and they follow up shots, and they shoot 70% from the floor because they don't take any real shots. Lively does, but not Gafford. Anyway, you're going to need Porzingis in the game now at 7-3 with his defensive ability to let these guys know they're not going to have their own way all the time doing the things they love to do. And so it's important to have Porzingis back for this one. But let's be honest. I continue to say that every team, every GM in the league, every one of them would gleefully trade his entire roster for Boston's entire roster and would say to his coach, okay, I just gave you the keys to the Ferrari. Don't screw it up. Don't drive it off the road. And they have the best collection of players in the league. They have the best 1 to 5, the best 1 to 6, 7, 8, 9, right through 10. And they have the best talent. And if everybody plays the A game, they win. And that's it. And I expect them to play well enough to win this series. I would be surprised. I think Dallas will put up a good fight. I think Doncic is a marvel for the ages. I think Kyrie has never played better basketball. He's going to be supremely motivated, you can imagine. And I think they'll put up a good fight. and I think they'll win a couple games at home.
You're right, and then it all comes down to the Celtics. I mean, it's up to the Celtics how this goes, right?
I mean, they are the best roster. They're the best
They are.
collection
If
of
they play to
players.
if they play to
They
their
have the best,
capability,
most good players they have,
right.
and that's that. Now, now the coach has to do his job, and he was a question, and I think he's proving himself as time goes on. That and I said from the beginning, in Brad I trust. Brad nailed it. That tabbed this guy, and so I trust Brad's judgment. And Joe Mazzulla, as we've talked about several times during the course of the winter and spring, is revealing himself to us and slowly coming out as a personality. He's not comfortable in the spotlight. He doesn't care if you ever talk to him or his name's ever in the paper. I really believe that. He's like the polar opposite of Jim Harbaugh, who can't stay out of the news. By the way, he's in the news again today, bragging about how hard they're working in the offseason. All right, this guy's the polar opposite. It's not about him. It's totally not about him and in his mind, and it's sincere. It's who he is. But he's a bright guy. We're learning that, and he has studied this game, and he's got theories about the game that are both things he's gleaned from other people and things he believes himself. And I'm getting more and more impressed with Joe Mazzulla.
I think the criticism now that we hear about the Celtics is, okay, yeah, they closed out games, and this is not from me. They closed out games, which is what we wanted them to do. But they did it against the team with Cleveland that didn't have their star. They did it with Miami, who didn't have their star. They did it with Indiana, who didn't have their star. So I'm with you. They answered the bell because, especially in the Indiana series, I mean, my God, for the first three quarters, sometimes they didn't even look like they cared. And as soon as they cared, they flipped the switch and they won the game. So it's almost like they were bored. But now people are being critical by saying that, well, it should have never been that close to begin.
That's fine. But I'm glad it happened. We want to say.
I agree with you because it's a test. They answered the quiz.
In all honesty, the one game was a giveaway, and Carlisle owned up to it.
Right.
And he was right. If he does the right thing and calls the timeout and gets the ball to midcourt, they win that game. Simple as that. They win the game. But they didn't. He didn't, and they didn't. But so of the three close wins, one was tainted for sure, one was iffy, and one was legit. All right, but anyway, they did it, and I think they're feeling better about themselves in that regard, than they did before the thing started.
Now, here's the question. The question is, can Jayson Tatum forego his points or his one-on-one basketball for the team aspect? Because if that happens consistently, they will win going away.
I certainly hope so. I mean, that's a fair question. We need that final question answered for him. We know how talented he is. That's not the issue. He's got raw skill. He checks all the boxes you want, technically. Okay. Including he's a much underrated traffic rebounder. He gets some rebounds that what I call rebounds that don't belong to him. That's what great rebounders can do. And he can do that when it's necessary. So I'm impressed with. He's a better rebounder than he's given credit for. That's a very good question, and I'd like to think he says all the right things. We'd like to think that he has figured it out. He's been around long enough. There's no excuse. He's piling up a lengthy resume of playoff appearances, and so time is now. And we said all year, this is a now team. The time is now. And remember the guards are in their 30s, both of them. So
and Porzingis.
And Porzingis is 28, and he's hurt all the time. So we better, if we get him out here, we want to make the best use of him in this however many games this thing's going to take. And we'll worry about next year. Let's get the job. Let's hoist that banner this time.
Well, if Jayson and his group of supporters can just understand and accept that he's not LeBron James and he's not Michael Jordan, okay?
He's not Larry Bird either.
And he's not Larry Bird, and he's not Magic Johnson.
Right. He's Jayson Tatum.
He's Jayson Tatum, which is still an excellent basketball player. But the one thing that's missing, and I just think it's never going to change, it's his makeup. That killer instinct, that intestinal fortitude that I just think it isn't there. But I do think it gets replaced by Jaylen Brown now. Mm-hmm. So I think the combination of the two, Bob, have finally clicked.
Well, let's just hope that Brown, people tried to read something into Tatum. I don't know what they're going to do to have a cheerleading contest for Brown. When Brown got the MVP of the Eastern
Right.
Conference Finals, people saying, "Oh, he didn't look that happy." I come on, stop it.
He had his hand on his shoulder, Bob. He had his hand on his shoulder. Okay, he was smiling. That's what Jayson Tatum does. Furthermore, these guys are all on a business trip. It's about the championship. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun and exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. With PrizePicks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. Now, if you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays, which increases your chance of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. The finals mean more on PrizePicks, and so do the star players. You get boosted playoffs on selected basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. Now, this week on PrizePicks, I'm looking at Jayson Tatum, more than 26.5 points. Jaylen Brown, more than 3 threes, which may be aggressive, but I'm running with that. Download that app today and use a code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Bob, we know contracts and money will play a big role in this, but do you think what we're seeing lately, do you think Brown and Tatum will be together for a long time?
Oh, this is a different. Tatum's going to cash in next. I don't know. I mean, I'm no good at that. I'm really not. I just take what comes. I don't know. I really don't know. I just think that it's imperative to win in 2024, and I'm not even worried. Nobody should be worried about, no fan, no writer. Nobody should be worried about 2025 to 32 or anything else. So I don't know, really.
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents. I'm more optimistic now than I have been, because when I look at this team, and for them to be successful, I don't look at it as simply Jayson Tatum's team anymore. I think it's Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown's team, because they each are bringing different things to the table. And if Jayson Tatum can live with that and he gets a championship, and Jaylen Brown can accept that role, even though, look, Tatum's the best player on the team. But what Brown has brought this team with his intensity and his attitude is vital. So I just hope both of them realize that they need each other. That's all. They need each other. That's what I've come.
I'll go with that.
You'll go with that. Thank you, Bob. Okay. Now, let's get to the history part. Bob, I on our email chain, I was saying, how about those 74-76 Celtics? You went into a deep dive on some things and it started you down a path.
Yeah. Well, first of all, they were the same opponent in the final at 74. They played Buffalo twice. They played them in 74 en route, and 74 and 76. And they each were 6-game series. They were tough series. As far as the finals are concerned, 74 was a legendary series in which the road team won for 5 of the 7 games, including the final 4. And the Bucks put up a great fight despite losing two-thirds of their best 3 backcourt players. And Lucius Allen was not there. Oscar Robertson was 34 years old and was on his last legs, literally, and had a hard time coping with Don Chaney's defense. Kareem carried them. It was extraordinary. People today, there's nobody quite like Kareem at that position anymore. And if it weren't for Kareem, the Celtics probably would have swept. Instead, they go 7. And a historic 6-game, double overtime game, wonderful, one of the great Celtic playoff games of all time, which they lost in double overtime. John Havlicek had a big second overtime. It looked like he was going to be the hero and the MVP of the series had they won. And I got one up by Kareem with a hook shot from the right corner.
Yep.
Roughly 17, 18 feet. Nobody else makes a hook shot from the corner 17, 18 feet except Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then game 7 was the Celtic triumph. in which Dave Cowens, who had not had a good game 6 at all, and was really came out hot. They got off to a quick funny story about that. Larry Costello in the press conference the day before said, "We need to get to a good start." Well, the Celtics got the tap and scored. They stole the inbound pass and scored. It was 4-0 after 12 seconds. And that really set the tone. And the Celtics got up by 17, and Kareem led them back, and Paul Westfall made a big basket on the baseline to start the run back up. Havlicek got a three-point play, an old-fashioned three-point play, up-faked at the foul line, drove to the basket, got fouled, and put the game away, and they won the game. Now, 76, that's the year after which, when the Westfall trade for Charlie Scott. Charlie Scott had a pretty good year, not a great year, but a pretty good year. And then when the playoffs came, they won 3 6-game series in a row, and he came up big in all 3 game 6s. He came up big in all 3 game 6s. Now, game 5 in 76 is the famous triple overtime game that one of the handful of greatest games in Celtic history, certainly one of my favorite moments of covering anything, an epic game with all kinds of ins and outs. And so, but one person who did not play well in that game was Charlie Scott. And Red Auerbach told him after that game, he said, "Get your rest, because we're going to need you Sunday." The game, this was on a Friday night, and they were playing game 6 in Phoenix, roughly 12 noon Phoenix time on Sunday. I mean, a very, very quick turnaround. And sure enough, Charlie Scott had a 25 or 6-point game on Sunday. Cowens had a big game, and they won going away. And that's, of course, one of the 2 times Phoenix has ever been to the finals. And it was, but they weren't supposed to be there. They were 42-40 in the regular season, and they caught fire in the playoffs. So that's what I most remember about that. And so those are 74 and 76.
In 76, did Phoenix have both Van Arsdale brothers?
No, here's the funny part about that. Dick Van Arsdale had been a career. No, he had been he came to Phoenix as an expansion player when they were formed.
Right.
So he had spent he had been with them from their inception. He had started out, I believe, with the Knicks, and his brother Tom bounced around from Detroit to Cincinnati to Philadelphia. He was a member of that 9 and 73 76er team in 72-73. And he was famous for having played the most games of anybody at that time who had never been in the playoffs. Well, finally, he gets traded to join his brother for the 76-77 season. If they're coming out of a finals, he figures, I'm going to get my playoffs, right? 77 was the only year in 10 years Phoenix didn't make the playoffs. He never played in a playoff game. He holds the record that'll probably never be broken for most games played in the NBA without playing a single playoff game.
That is a tough one to swallow, and only Bob Ryan would know that.
And those guys, the Van Arsdales, were the same player. Their
Couldn't tell them apart.
Look at their stats at Indiana. Look at their stats in the NBA. They're incredibly comparable in terms of points per game, assists, field goal percentage, and they each had the same famous spin move. I once asked them, I forget which one I asked, if they ever, cheat and substituted, if they ever, fooled people. They said in the Little League. They did it in the Little League. They switched teams and nobody didn't tell anybody. But they said they never did it after that. But they could have done it. You couldn't tell those guys apart.
No, but certainly from television, you never could.
And they go on. They're the greatest twins in NBA history.
Now, Charlie Scott and the Westfall deal, was that made because Cheney went to the ABA?
No, it was. I don't think it would have made it. No, that was made. I suspected, and I basically had it confirmed, that Westfall was now, with Cheney gone, definitely he would be starting.
Right.
JoJo had a fragile ego, and that Red properly recognized that JoJo wasn't going to willingly accept Westfall as an equal, that there would be nights when Westfall would get the 30 and he'd get the 10, and JoJo wouldn't going to like that.
Right.
And traded him for a guy that JoJo would have regarded as an equal, as a peer, Charlie Scott. And that I kind of put 2 and 2 together on that, and I have had that confirmed by somebody who should know that that's essentially true. and Westfall went on for a 5-year meteoric career.
Oh, he's tremendous.
Great player. Then he got hurt. He got traded to Seattle.
Went to Seattle.
Was never the same again. But he got into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. Thank God. I'm glad. I hit it off with him immediately. I was very funny. As a matter of fact, had dinner at his house with my wife and Mike Lupica, who was a very close friend of his, and Mike State, and we were invited to Paul's house for dinner. And about 2 days later, he got traded. He was blindsided. He had no idea.
Wow.
He lived in Newton, right over by Charles River Country Club, and he was stunned. But that worked out. It was a great career move for him in Phoenix. He became an icon in Phoenix. He thrived out there. And the Celtics didn't do anything in his absence. In terms of
Oh no, until they went down.
After
76, they went down.
No, they didn't go anywhere. And so he was better off in Phoenix in his career move.
Yeah, he was a terrific player. I always wondered about that because I remember him being a role player, or he came off the bench, and then I was like, why did we let him go to Phoenix when he had such a terrific career? That's the only thing that makes sense. I've always wondered about that.
But it was actually better than they thought, I think. But still,
well, that's what I wondered, if they thought that he wasn't, like I was thinking, that maybe they didn't think he was a legit starter.
It had to do with JoJo, though.
Ego.
And JoJo went on and had a couple of really excellent years.
But is that one of the things that Red was great at, recognizing the chemistry?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. Like right now, I was looking on the app, and it's really easy to use. Just download the app. Lots of pictures for us sports fans. Lots of pictures. And, the tickets for Celtics Game 1 and whoever they play, between $600-$700. But the closer you get to actual tip time, it's going to go down. So you and your friends may do a last-minute thing. And I know it's a lot of money, but maybe it's 2-3 of your friends, last-minute trip, boom, let's go. Let's see what the tickets are on Gametime. You never know. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Okay, here's the deal. Last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Now, the flash dealers save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section for the zone deals. You choose a section, let Gametime choose the seats. Sounds pretty good to me. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
When we're talking about the length of series and what people are going to think, just so people know, the Celtics have had one sweep in the finals in their entire history, and that was in 1959 when they swept a Minneapolis team that wasn't even 500, but they happened to come out of the West and win the playoffs and got the honor of getting slaughtered by the Celtics in 4 games.
And Mikan was gone by then.
Yeah, no, this is Elgin Baylor's rookie year.
Got it.
It's the year before Jerry West. They went, and that was their last year in Minneapolis. They moved for the next season to LA. Okay. The Celtics have the last 5-game series that they won was in 1965 against the Lakers. So the last 9 championships have either gone 6 or 7, just so people know that.
Right. And
I'm calling 6 with the hope that it would be 5, but I'm calling 6. But just so people know, it didn't matter whether it was a 2-3-2, which it was in 86 and in 08, or the much better format 2-2-1-1-1, which we're back to, thank God. And they have won the last 2 championships have been won on Game 6 at home. The first one in a 2-3-2, and the second one, they're both in a 2-3-2. Game 6 was at home. This year, Game 6 will be on the road, as in the 2-2-1-1-1. So, anyway, there you go. But that's interesting. 9 in a row, it's taken at least 6 games, if not, and in several cases, the opponent gave them a better fight than people expected. I hope people aren't thinking this is going to be anyway easy with the way Doncic and Irving are playing. They deserve to be here. They kind of flew under the radar at the end of the season while everybody in the West, the people were looking at who was going to come out of the West at the top, and they went up in a 3-way tie, with tiebreakers determining who got the first seed, second seed, third seed. And then the other thing people were watching was the Lakers and the Suns, right? And the Warriors. Nobody was paying attention to Dallas. Well, at one point near the end of the year, they won 16 out of 18,
right,
before losing their final 2. And Doncic led the league in scoring, and Kyrie has found his place on earth. He's the happiest I'm sure he's ever been, and playing great. But the reason why it's important to have Porzingis back is the 2 young big men that they play in the air,
right,
and they do what they do very well. And Porzingis will be there to occupy a little airspace with them. Thank God.
Does this improve Jason Kidd's reputation as a head coach?
I think it will. I know people thought of him as a mediocre coach. I know that. Yeah, I would think so. And they want to play for him. They sing his praises. And I think they want to play for him. They like his approach. They like him. And, and I think it's important for his lust. But, obviously if he wins, it's going to really elevate him. But unless they get trampled, if the Celtics do surprise me,
right,
and sweep them or win them or blow them out in a 5 with a chintzy, road Game 3 win in Dallas, people may hold that against him. But I think he'll come out of this with his reputation improved regardless.
As a worrisome New Englander, teams that are playing with nothing to lose and with house money scare the hell out of me.
When this tournament, as Parcells would call it, started, 16 teams, 15 of which were playing with house money, in my judgment. And I'm sticking to that.
Even
One
Denver?
team
Even
has
Denver?
had all the pressure. One team has had all the pressure on it, and you know who it is. And it's everybody else has played with house money from day one. They may have had some self-imposed stuff, I mean, they're disappointing teams, of course. But the fact is that in terms of winning the whole thing, there's only one team that had the absolute necessity to win because, and that is the Boston Celtics. They have had all the pressure. So yes, Dallas should, feel, I won't say loosey-goosey, but they should be comfortable and do what they, just the pressure's on Boston. There's no doubt. I can argue.
I'm just thankful. Well, I believe in the maturation of I've seen it, of the 2 stars, of Jaylen Brown and of Tatum. I'm just really glad that we have the backcourt, that White and Holiday are here. I'm just really glad
Oh yeah, particularly with the formidable presence such as Kyrie, and of course Doncic. I can't think of him as a guard. Technically, he's a guard.
He's whatever,
He's a basketball player. He's a queen on the chessboard, a basketball player, as is LeBron. And they both are, in a sense of having the ball a lot and generating the offense of their team from a position other than a so-called point guard. They're very similar in how they approach the game in that way. The Doncic is sui generis, though. There's nobody quite like him. He's I'm looking forward to seeing him up close and personal than how he's going to.
I think it's going to be a much more entertaining series than people first thought. Yeah. I think the idea was if it was Denver, it was going to be competitive. If it was anybody else, the Celtics were going to blow them out. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Celtics will win it. Yeah. But I think it's going to to be more competitive than some.
I totally agree.
Dallas has hit their stride.
Yeah, and that's the guy name we should mention because he's important. A name we should mention is Nico Harrison, because Nico Harrison, who just got a new contract, by the way, the general manager today, as we speak, is getting a new contract, and deservedly so, made 2 moves that they wouldn't be here. He got PJ Washington and he got Gafford. And they were not with this team at the start of the season.
Right.
And they would not be here without them. And so he gets an executive of the year nods kind of stuff for that move. So he gets credit. But PJ Washington's going to be around I don't know, probably getting an All-Star game maybe at some point.
Right.
I was looking at their composition of their. By the way, just interesting to compare the draft status of the two teams. I'm just curious here. There's only one number one overall pick on either team. You know who it is?
Wait a minute. Is it that's not Porzingis? No, not Porzingis.
No.
Wait.
People forget he was number one.
Kyrie. It's a great question. Who was it?
Kyrie. He only played
Kyrie was
11
number
games.
one?
He played 11 games for
Well,
Duke.
that's why. He played 11 games at Duke. I didn't remember him being number one.
Lukic was a 3, and he was traded on draft night by Atlanta. Great move, Atlanta. They traded for Trae Young. Okay?
Well,
Washington is a 12. Gafford's a 38. And Derek Lively, who I like and I think is going to be a good player as time goes on, is going to be an important player. He's a 12. Derek Jones is undrafted. Hardaway Jr. is a 14, and Norman Powell's a 46. On our side, of course, we got Brown and Tatum, each number 3. Porzingis was a 4. White was, surprisingly, he was 29. He was a first rounder, late. Holiday 17. Here's a guy people forget, was a third pick in the draft. Uncle Al. Horford. Pritchard 11. Hauser and Cornette, both undrafted.
Right.
And Tillman 35. So anyway, for whatever it's worth.
It's interesting. The Kyrie, and this is, people have said, Kyrie could fall. Look, this is it for Kyrie. He's 31. This is his last hurrah, in my opinion. So I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to have a good series.
Oh, I think he's going to be supremely motivated too.
Yeah.
You know that. He's anticipating.
The Celtics Kyrie thing is, I think that's going to be, it's going to be basketball. And
people are asking me about it on the outside. I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as the outside world thinks it's going to be.
I agree.
I agree. Going to treat him. But guess what? The rougher they treat him, the better he'll play, I think, though. I think he's ready for it.
Oh,
he's
sure.
definitely ready.
Drives on it.
I have my theories about Kyrie, and my sense of it is that it's falling into place for him. I think he's in a good place, the best place he's ever been as a pro since Cleveland. And of course, I mean, that was so foolish for him to will himself out of Cleveland at the time. I thought it was ridiculous, but that's who he was at that time. And I bet he looks back at that guy and said, "God, who was that jerk? Who did that? Did I do that?"
You never know with him, Bob. He's Bob Ryan. The L is not for luscious or lovely or loser. It is for Lawrenceville, the great Lawrenceville alum, one Robert Ryan. Okay, Bob Goodman's up next. We're going to talk to him in a few days after game 1. So we'll see you then.
Finally, a game.
No kidding. Finally, a game.
Biggest gap ever.
We are brought to you by PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media. Pick more, pick less. It's always that easy with PrizePicks.